So we've not had a meeting point. It's not necessary that we are working in silos, but one is older than the other. So we have organizations that work for women empowerment. They've been older than what we now call the data movement and the open data movement. So what I'm looking at is the next frontier of the meeting between open data and gender equity. That's my action point. And if anyone here is working with a network organization, I'll be glad to speak more because I'm hoping to have a face-to-face meeting of network actors on one side of data and on the other side of gender or marginalized groups, because sometimes we seem to focus on women. It's not a women issue, but it's a gender and other marginalized groups. So I'll be happy to speak to you if you're interested. If you have a network and you work on these issues, I'm happy to talk more. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to talk about are the gender gap, the data gaps, the gender data gaps. Someone was asking the question yesterday. I know that there are data gaps generally, but even gender data is even rare. Maybe if this group wants to do something about it, I know that it's a big chunk if you want to chew it, but if anyone has the teeth strong enough, they should go for it. But I think it's work that has to be done anyhow in one way or the other. Of um, female open data champions, I mean, someone you could see, and if they say open data and women, such faces will come up to you. I know that the movement is still new. I don't know why I'm calling it movement, but I think that by the by, don't just need data mamas, we need data sisters and all of that. But we need to be able to refer to 3, 4 ladies in a given community who can speak authoritatively about either the policy, the technology, or the social implications of open data, and in a convincing manner. So my 3 points are a network around open data and gender, which I'm willing to talk to people about, then bridging gender data gaps, and female OD champions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nana. So everyone, you know who to look to talk at the end of the session. Anybody want to go next? Yes, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Francisca from the Ministry of Gender. I've been working on gender issues for over 10 years, and I'm in the research department of the ministry. And my action area is collaboration with other institutions, because having been working on gender for over 10 years, when you start talking about gender issues and you focus on women, they always say you are talking about women issues. But if you have the data, you can advance your case. Domestic violence, the data speaks for itself. More women are abused than men. So that makes the argument very firm, and you're able to push your way through. But because we don't have that data around, it makes it difficult. It seems we are always talking about women instead of gender. And even as the day before yesterday, went for a workshop and they were all men. And when we started talking, they said, why are you talking about women issues? So I brought some statistics out, and then they appreciated that. So open data is very, very important for us to achieve gender equality. But the problem we have in Ghana and then some few countries on the global scale is that those gender activists are mostly older women above the age of 45, and the IT gurus are younger women. So how do we merge the two? Because some of the gender experts don't even know how to use internet. They don't know how to search for information. So how do we marry the two to get women issues out there using open data? So that's where I'm coming from. Is that? Yes. The two women getting the older, no, bringing them together and achieving a result. Getting the older people who have the gender expertise, and then the younger people who have the technological expertise. how do we come together to solve the problem? And then one other thing that my boss talked about yesterday is gender statistics. In Ghana, we just did a survey and we don't, it is very poor. So how do we push this agenda forward if we don't have the information available? And how do we interpret the information to the women down? I think you were at the climate change workshop that we just had.
Yeah.
How would a rural woman who is a farmer understand the climate change data and appreciate it before using it? That was the point I raised there. So this is where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Very true. Thank you. Thanks. I think Dorothy would like to go next.
Thanks. I think it's a bit ironic that we are hearing our ministry, which should be in charge of pushing for ensuring that we have the right kind of statistics when it comes to women, you are rather complaining about it. This is one of the things, by the way, my name is Dorothy Gordon, and I work in technology for development. And I've worked for NGOs, I've worked for the UN, and I've worked for my government. And I'm really frustrated to listen to her, because we've had a Ministry of Women's Affairs, Gender, whatever, they keep changing the name, but it's been around for, I think, more than 20 years. And still, when we go and we ask for statistics in Ghana, I remember having several fights with the various heads of the National Communication Authority, because we don't have information that tells us, is it different for women? Is it different for men? And this is administrative. Simple letters with the backing of the executive can cause that to change. It is not that additional money is required. It's an approach to collecting the information. So please put that on your agenda. And what I think we need to do is we need to do a ranking of countries by the availability of information which is differentiated for men and differentiated for women. This is sex disaggregated data. You know, some people are worried about third sex, but for now, let us just do men, let us do women, and find out what the differences are, and what then we can see what the policy implications should be. So that would be my first action point, and that is for us as Ghanaians to take on. The second thing is what you said about gender activists being older people. It is not true. I was at a meeting of the African Women's Development Fund. They haven't been invited here, but they are the single multi-million-dollar fund for women in Africa. And their staffing is very young. And they have women IT gurus on their staff as well. So the thing is that it isn't that techies are young and male. So, true, it's predominant. But the question is that, for example, how many of you are working on open data projects? I'm sure many of you are. Within those open data projects, has the gender dimension really been taken on? Are we tracking whether or not our training within the framework of those projects reaches women as well as men in equal kinds of terms? So you see that the open data projects are actually accentuating the divide. And this is something that we can correct. So that is up to us to correct. We track it. This conference, I was thinking that every single person coming for this conference who had their travel funded, because it's more difficult when people are walking in from the country and they're coming in for free. But every single person who came here, who was funded to come here, should have answered a questionnaire about what they were doing. And the purpose of the questionnaire would not only have been to gather data on what they were doing about women and men, but also as a way of training them, because the way you will frame the question should also encourage them to think about the issue. So I think there are many things we can do. When I worked at the UN thousands of years ago, at one time, we had placed a restriction that any workshop or conference funded by us, if the panels were not gender balanced, if the participation was not gender balanced, we would withdraw the funding. And now I go and I see men-only panels. What the hell? Sorry, guys, we love you dearly, but it doesn't send the right message if it's only one group of people speaking. And that's why I'm so happy to see a number of young dynamic, I am assuming you're dynamic because you're in this session, young dynamic men who are here who will also be able to advance the cause. So the last point I'd like to make is that it's really up to us to partner with the leading organizations that are advancing issues relating to women. And now there are new sets of issues relating to men. We should also be paying attention to that. So the question is to the open data community doing a proper partnership with them to support them, you know, instead of doing new things which are actually causing more of a divide. Thanks.
Thank you. No, I think it's true. We saw the Manal hashtag last year at IDC, but I haven't seen it here yet. The Manal hashtag Manals at our conference. Wait. Yeah. So maybe I'll actually, if I can put Fernando on the spot for a second to speak about this. So speaking of leading organizations.
I don't know if we consider ourselves leading organization on this issue or not, but I ensure our commitment to become a champion of this process. For sure, it's something that we really want to take to heart, and we have been working on it. I work for OD4D for IDRC Canada, and OD4D is a partnership between the OD4D network is a partnership between the World Bank, IDRC, Global Affairs Canada, and DFID, and we have been supporting different activities on open data around the world. We recently went through an independent evaluation, and we do things like even the International Open Data Conference to kind of support leaders, policy work, measuring of open data around the world. And we did an independent evaluation, and one of the key questions was related to the issue of gender. And what we saw is that this is still kind of something that, as we support the open data community, is something that there's kind of an interest, but it's not ingrained in our program. And I feel in many of the activities around the open data community. So bringing kind of this to the forefront has been a kind of a core commitment. We have started a number of projects around the world on kind of domestic violence, skills for women, of their international assistance, international development as well. So I think that this is something that we need to, so the inputs here are really take to heart, and we're going to try to support actions coming out from this discussion.
So I'm going to actually, I think the network and building champions, capitalizing on sort of these conferences and these opportunities is something that's come up quite a lot. So I think given sort of these commitments and these things, this is our chance to sort of try to walk away and build on that and see how these people in these rooms specifically can take up on that. So we have the OD4D node, which in the MENA region, which is something I'm part of, but we have our East Africa node as well. We have ACAFDO, the Francophone so there is this place to sort of do it, but we need sort of people in these rooms to network and collaborate to do that. We have a special request, another request from Fernando from Ms. Dorothy. We want to hear a little bit about what's happening in Latin America, in Brazil.
In terms of this whole area.
Dimension? I think it's also a topic that tends to be kind of, I think the issues are similar in some aspects. The work that we are doing has been First, I think there is a strong commitment to connect even, and there's even a letter from groups there establishing an agenda between gender and open government and open data, because I think that's also connected with empowering women to be heard on the interaction with government and so on. So that's one thing that the Latin Americans are pushing strongly. We are working in a particular project is about kind of, we don't, even in the macho culture of Latin America, and we know how important the kind of the issue of domestic violence is in Latin America, the statistics around that is very limited yet. So I think that's one of the key things that we're working with governments across the region to kind of really kind of narrow down and get the stats around this work and kind of building open platforms that allow people to interact and discuss these issues very with governments. And I think that we see this really being much more strongly focused, similar to here, on the agenda of the regional open data events and so on. So I think that kind of is still in that early stage, but I think we see that the community is getting together to kind of to advance that agenda in a strong manner and becoming more central to the open data agenda as it moves forward. So I think it's kind of Africa obviously has a very strong network of gender NGOs and so on. So also there's a strong basis to build this collaboration between the open data community and the gender community in Africa. So I think that kind of, I think we're gonna definitely try to explore South-South collaboration as much as possible, because I think that would be very rich to think about kind of also Haiti or kind of Caribbean and other regions. So I think that's a lot of opportunities for South-South collaboration. Maybe that's an action that we can follow up.
That's a good action item. I think it's good to hear what's happening regionally. And just to pick up on something that was brought about earlier, so when you talk about words like patriarchy, right? So patriarchy affects men just as much as it affects women. It's a system, and this is something that came up in our workshop, sort of deep-rooted structures of gender. So this is maybe something to keep in mind, that we need to think about the language that we use around gender. We need to think about sort of issues that are beyond open data. But with that, I will call on our next speaker, next person who wants to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Benis Dandeboyabua, and my kind of work is related to Dorothy's work. I work with UNICEF Technology for Development, and the kind of work we do is to look at the link between technology and how the structured way of programming can interconnect and link together. So one of the things we are looking at is menstrual hygiene management, and we are looking at how technology can be used to make the information available for not just mothers or women, but also men, so that in place of them as single parents or however way they find themselves in, they will be able to also give the right information to girls. So that's the kind of work we do in relation to that. And I'm here to look at the links between how gender can really play out with technology, and to look at the interconnectivity on how open data can be used for advocacy and social accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to build upon that? Tina, I think we heard really interesting things at Mobile Web Ghana as well. If you'd like to sort of, I have an action item in mind now.
Our action item is always to get the majority of girls into technology. And we realize that girls or women do not use a lot of technological tools to enhance their businesses. So we at the Ghana Code Club were thinking if we should get them at a very young age, they will grow with it. So we want to expose as many school-going kids as possible into technology. That's our action item.
That's good, because I think we've sort of heard recurring things of building data champions, fostering young female techies, and so perhaps that's the action item related to sort of those goals is primary education, encouraging women earlier into sort of STEM programs. That's a specific action item that we could perhaps take up. Is there anybody else? We haven't heard from any men so far, but they're here and vibrant. Right. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're still thinking. Yes, please don't be shy. We're here to hear. Oh, okay. What? Mahadia, please.
Hi. So, I just wanted to ask a question. There is this area that we want to explore on how to include, because I've had a lot of conversation on including gender targeting on girls in school. But as I presented that, we have like in Tanzania, 61% that girls who are supposed to be in school out of schools. So now how are we going to include those who are out of school into this data and tech agenda? So for DLAB, this is our mission going forward. So as we talk about open data and the IT, so we also include those who are out of school. Though sometimes it's a challenge because of the language and exposure when you have these two groups. So I wanted to hear from others if they have explored that area and what are the challenges.
So does anyone have an answer to this, or sort of a response? Has anyone come across this in their own experiences, or have any ideas on how you could sort of tackle something like that? Yeah.
Yes. Originally we wanted to include the we'll say school dropouts or people who don't have the means to go to school. But you realize that most of these girls they think they are okay where they are. So you end up being the one forcing them to do what they don't want to do. Yes, that's one of the areas we have experienced. Yes.
So I guess it's also this building, so finding partners, building will, rather than forcing it on people. That's very valid. So I actually, yeah. Does anyone else? You have a follow-up point? Yeah.
I think technology has a way of reaching out of school, because you see people who have never been to school using mobile phones and being able to go through apps, using social media, and they feel so comfortable in that. So I think the entry point is to use what they know, what they've been introduced to be able to target your programs towards that. When you go along those lines, they know most of them are on Facebook. Then you see how best you can target your programming along, let's say, social media to be able to reach them. I think that's one of the good ways it's worked for us, and you could use that as well. Thanks.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I would like to ask, I think we've been talking about getting girls in technology, as you've mentioned. I want to know whether is being done in the urban areas. What about the communities and the constituencies? How do you reach the girls down there at the localities?
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I got into technology and development when I was working for the UN in India. They had a major earthquake, and when I was visiting the earthquake area to see how to better support them, what I realized is there were a number of Indian NGOs who were working with the women in the area, and it was women who only spoke their own language, with Gujarati. They only spoke Gujarati. They were not necessarily literate in Gujarati, but they were conducting training. This was in the year 2002, so bandwidth was a big issue. They were conducting training using two-way audio, one-way video, because that was the kind of bandwidth that they had. The essence of it is peer-to-peer training. So some Gujarati women knew how to construct an earthquake-proof house. They were the ones who were teaching the other women how to do it. And they were listening because they were all on the same level and they could relate. And it was to a problem that was a pressing problem for them. So I think to build on what Bernice, I think it's Bernice was saying, peer-to-peer training, and then also make sure that you're anchoring your training activity in something that they see as a real issue. If it's a hypothetical issue, nobody in a rural area has got time. You know, I mean, sometimes, for example, harvest season, people are exhausted. All mothers are exhausted. Mothers of small children, we live in a permanently exhausted phase. So we don't need people who are coming to waste our time on hypotheticals. And I think we just have to bear that in mind. Peer to peer, as much as possible, let the trainer be somebody that they can relate to.
I'll take one point. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Angela, and I would like to respond to her question. How to reach out to women who are outside school in terms of technology. Bernice cited an example of maybe relaying it through Facebook. Most of these girls use Facebook and WhatsApp, but if you pass any information through Facebook, they would think this is not for me. Actually, how many of them would sign up to any of this? They wouldn't. But I think that if we can go to the communities, especially get people that they can relate to, people that can speak their language. For instance, I go to the market women, I want to convince them about how they can use technology to build up. I have to get to understand them and let them know that what I want to do will be of good benefit to them. If we can do that, not only using social media, but really getting to them, probably getting to the opinion leaders like maybe the chiefs and the assembly members in the municipal, and also getting their peers. For instance, if I go to relate to those of my age group, to let them know that this is what you want to encourage and it's going to help you. In as much as you are not in school, you are a target and we believe that you can do it, then they can understand and sign up to that.
No, I think that's a very good point. So we're talking about peer-to-peer training, but also reaching out to community leaders who are then going to sort of try to spread the same messages. So I said I wasn't going to, but I'm going to direct the discussion a little bit based on something sort of that came up in our workshop, which is the idea that sometimes we relegate open data gender agendas to gendered issues, right? So gender, when we usually mean women, so issues that affect women. But we spoke a lot actually Wednesday about participatory budgeting as one thing. I think Nana has really strong feelings about this. But sectors where women are not usually considered, keeping in mind that by gender we do mean men and women, but we want to explore sort of inclusivity within that, right? So are there any sort of priority sectors where we feel specifically that the gender agenda hasn't been broached? I'll raise that question. Another question, do we have, so the Ministry of Gender, do we have gender budgeting or specific gender budgeting?
I would like to just
If you,
I can be here. I think we need to look at the participatory planning with them before we come to the budgeting, because we can't budget without planning. So we have to ensure that we bring everyone on board. Like yesterday, I think we were here. The boys, the girls, the men and women within the communities, those who are working, those who are not working. For instance, we know the boys' needs. When we go to the communities, for instance, the schools, we talk of, shall I say, place of convenience, at our toilets, for boys and girls in schools. You can't plan alone leaving them. You need to talk to each other when you go to the communities or localities or the districts anywhere. How would a schoolgirl want the toilet to be, and how would a male pupil, a student, also want it? Because we normally do it in such a way that is just providing this place of convenience without taking care of, for instance, if a girl has her menstrual period, how do you expect the girl to hygienically take care of herself in the communities or in schools? So we need to plan with them and then do the budgeting together to see how best we could satisfy both, especially the girl child. And then coming to the women, yesterday, as I pointed out, in some areas we do plan and we leave the women out. But you know, the women, I talk of fetching water, as I said yesterday. I don't know many of people who were here. And you, the chief or the opinion leaders, only may meet and think that let us provide water for this. It means you didn't contact the needy people. You know, they would want the borehole or the hand-dug well somewhere, proper place for them, but you can't decide for them. So participatory planning and participatory budgeting is key. Thank you.
So hearing women's voices in the planning stage, men and women's representation. Okay, we have another comment, and I think also you'd like to also say something, so we'll go from here to here.
I think I'll speak on the side of disabled women, because I could notice that they have a lot of problems. Some of them are, prone to, let's say, sexual harassment and other family rejects. It's like their life is so miserable. So many of them find it a problem to complain about all these things, because it's like they are being outcast and rejected. Discrimination is so high to them. And for that matter, they don't know, those who cannot complain, those who cannot know where to go, just find themselves anyhow. So as this topic is going on, I think it will be my best concern to say that disabled women should be looked at so critically, and the necessary help should be given to them. For instance, those who are married, some
we'll see some outcomes for both genders in terms of access to opportunities, and then discrimination. We'll be able to get results for that in the long term, because in their planning processes, we are taking care of the gender dimension of persons with disability. Thank you.
So we have a quicker, yeah. Use your microphone.
She said she's talking about the long, I'm talking about the long term. Yes, we have, that's why we have a policy that looks at the short term, the medium term, and the long term. So what we want to achieve is in the long term, what do we expect to see? We expect to see that persons with disability, there's no discrimination in terms of gender. So in the short term, we are putting measures in place. In the medium term, we are doing that. But in the long term, this is what everybody should see visibly. It shouldn't be in the books, but it should be happening at the grassroots. That's what I mean. Because we have a policy for that. So when you go into the policy, we have the short term measures, the long term, and then the medium term. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. I think this will be a great project. UNICEF, maybe you can help. Let's use OpenStreetMap or any other open mapping tools, and let's do the geolocation of people living with disability in Ghana, and including women living with disability, so that we can see where the concentrations are, and then deliver quickly to where we see there's a lot of them.
So
that they need to also contact the metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, because they have a percentage of the common fund for the PWDs, people with disabilities. So that when budgeting or planning, they should, because I know that in the medium-term plan of the MMDAs, they do capture something there for the PWDs, but how best are they been implemented is what we need to look at. Thanks.
So we already have a project brewing. That's action. Let's take one last comment. I think then let's start to sort through some of these and see what kind of concrete actions we can take towards these suggestions and actions. So please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Papo from Persons with Disability Fraternity. Yeah, like what my brother was saying is true, but the common fund in the district assembly, most of our organizations members have been neglected since the year 2008. Some of them did not even get their common funds. And whenever you look at the method of persons with disability, we have different categories. We have the hearing impairment, we have the visual impairment, and we have the physically challenged. But the hearing impairment women, they face a lot of challenges. We don't have sign language interpreters, and we need more women to be trained so that they can empower the vulnerability women in our society. In the year 2005, some of our members have been trained in ICT. I'm very happy that the former Director General of the Kofi Annan ICT Center is here. Most of our women need to be empowered in these ICT issues. Now, the JMB and the National Council of Persons with disability, we are now working on it. But now we need more collaborators so that we can all work together to achieve holistic results in our society. Thank you.
Yeah, collaboration is definitely key. And so I think we're hearing this specific conversation to Ghana, but it's something we can all probably relate to in our specific context. So I think you do have a comment on.
This isn't a direct comment, so if anyone has more direct comments to the discussion. But I was hoping to maybe move to one of Nena's points at the beginning around data gaps. And thinking about the data ecosystem and the role that national statistical offices can play in that data ecosystem. So we've heard a lot today, and maybe it's just a result of the people that are in the room about how you want to use gender data, and that's really enriching and great for us. And my colleague and I are from the Ghana Statistical Service, so from the National Statistical Office here in Ghana. But we have recently set up a working group on specifically on gender data and statistics, and it would be great to hear from the people in the room, you know, what do you want to see from national statistical offices? Is it merely kind of collecting the data that's already available in the national statistical system and making it more available? Is it producing more specific gender data? Is it new collaborations or using new types of innovation to collect different types of information? So maybe that's a request to everyone in the room to let us know what would be helpful for us to focus on in the short to medium term.
So a question, what would you like from statistical office? Not necessarily just the one here, but your own statistical offices. Well, have a think about that.
We should start by having sex disaggregated data in Ghana. Why is it that we are still talking about this? Our National Statistics Office should ensure that for whichever data sets we are looking at for, we should be able to get sex disaggregated data. That is a minimum. It's not there yet.
Do we have a response?
I think we've really improved in that aspect because, I don't know the way you're shaking your head. we've really come far with what you're talking about, because in all our data collection and all our activities, we make sure, first and foremost, we go with the segregated the data by sex before we think about what to do next. And we're also encouraging the other ministries to do likewise. For instance, currently we are implementing the Ghana Statistics Development Project. It's in collaboration with other 9 ministries and statistical service, just to help to strengthen their statistical capacity within their ministries. And it's these, how to ensure that we get the data that we need in terms of sex disaggregated and maybe moving forward to gender statistics. We're making sure that all these are incorporated into it. So I think we've done. But we still need to do more work in that area, but I think we've come far with this.
Okay, so we have one more question, and I'd really like to move. So let's think regionally, let's think as a continent, what we can try to move our next steps, so we can dedicate the last 10 minutes to turning some of these sort of wish lists, these sort of what we really want to see happening, into concrete actions. So our goal is 4 actions we can take from this, but
No, it's okay. Let's move it out.
Move it out of Ghana.
And maybe the problem is with the administrative part of the data. For our censuses and surveys, it's very easy to get such kind of data, but when it comes to the administrative aspect, it's a little bit difficult getting the data we need to fill in the gaps there. Because sometimes you even send the request and you don't get any feedback in regards.
Yeah, you see, the thing is that national statistics offices are supposed to be the hub of your statistical and data system, if you put it that way. And there are actually legal requirements, or I don't know if we call it legal, but I think it's legal, from the UN Statistical Office for countries which have signed on in terms of the kind of things they're supposed to report on. And so those official statistics and they go through, for example, we know that women drive business in Ghana. But if we wanted to find out the typology of women businesses in Ghana, how many women are in business in Ghana, we won't find it. And so I feel bad when you say administrative, because you're supposed to be the core. If you're supposed to be the hub of it, then you should make sure that it happens. Yes, but it's not happening. And I think for those who are from other African countries here, unfortunately, it doesn't happen in those other countries either. That is why I said we should have a table which ranks countries by their ability to provide sex disaggregated data and also gender sensitive data, because the whole gender data is a very, let's say, an area with a lot of gray in it. So if we do a country ranking of that, you will see then the Ghana government and our statistical service will jump up and say, we don't like being bottom of that table, and then we'll fix it.
So maybe this is a lunch discussion. You can talk further. So I'll try to very quickly summarize some of the things we spoke about, and if I've left anything out, let me know. And maybe perhaps we could suggest some ways of how can we take this conversation further and how can we work together. So a big one has been the network, the collaboration aspect. So how do we get these people in the room and the networks that we all represent to be more connected? And maybe related to that is sort of this idea of looking how each of us are doing, right? So how well we are able to access sex disaggregated data, not only from our statistical offices, but from other sources of data. We're in a desperate need for some champions to take this up, and then sort of in that, we've been speaking about encouraging young women and young men to be more involved in the tech sphere, to have their voices being heard for those who are already there. So really encouraging them and the different sort of challenges and opportunities around that. We've had a project suggestion, which is great so far, so looking specifically at disabilities and what we can look at geographical data for that. We have so peer-to-peer training and community leaders is another one. How do we sort of, maybe we can call that mentorship aspects. So how can the network really make sure that we're encouraging open data and gender, we're providing tools, we're providing guidelines for people to work with in their own various projects. Disaggregated data has come off a lot. Participation and inclusivity is another thing, if I can just summarize some of the points that were made. So given these, maybe I can ask some of us in the room to suggest what are the next steps. How will we continue this conversation? Maybe a communication platform is one of them. Maybe we also need to sort of understand better from people who participated, but also not spoken today. What are you doing, and how can we sort of share resources, and how can we build on what everyone is doing? Maybe a mapping initially of this meeting, but also the networks that we work with would be great and useful. Would anyone like to sort of add, or is there anything else? So communication. Communication is key.
Sorry for coming in so late. My name is Achieng. I work with the Pan-African Citizens Network based in Nairobi. Perhaps as one of the thinking through the solutions is engaging the African Union in terms of trying to create a more, because their work is mostly around coordinating policies across countries. So they may be an entry point in terms of finding ways to further disseminate the good practices that are coming up in different countries.
So engaging sort of wider networks that already exist outside open data to bring them into it, that's a very good step. Mahadi? Yeah.
Hi, so I also suggest like having a platform. I know that we are facing similar challenges, and some of them have already been tackled, like maybe the issues like curriculums. Maybe if we could have that platform, instead of redoing the work or rethinking, maybe we could start from something that others have already been doing. But also, I wanted just to add one thing. There's a need of government to collaborate with these organizations and CSO in terms of the data, because I know there are a lot of CSO who are doing gender-specific activities, so they have a lot of gender disaggregated data. So if the national statistics could also collaborate with NGOs and CSO and thinking of how they can use such data.
Collaboration, different sectors, civil society specifically. So really then maybe we can consider a way to group those working in gender, not necessarily tech or open data, and bringing them into sort of our worlds, our networks. So this was brought up before as well, bridging the gap.
Good afternoon. My name is Eva Abugabi and I represent Odiko. Yes, my contribution is that we should make this to be a continuous talk. We should go forward with it. It's not like talking about it today and then we go home and we forget about it. We should continue with the persistency. And it shouldn't just be about work. We should make sure that these are things that are not being influenced by political actions or external forces. We should make it about us and make it more important so that it will make an impact in the people's in whose interest we are making this movement or communication. Thank you.
Do you have just a list of people if you want to put their names and emails, so we start a list?
Yeah,
or
so there's supposed to be the
is
attendance
it circulating?
list
I
going.
haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't been. Yeah. All right, so please, we'll start that.
Let's start ASAP so we can continue.
I think sometimes when we come together and talk about gender-related issues, it's easy for us to go back and sleep or forget about what we discussed. So we can start with simple platforms like creating a group and then taking each action item and giving time span of implementation. So if it's mapping of people or organizations doing things that are gender specific, we give ourselves some time or find resources and do it, and then look at key people. Other than that, it just become a one-off thing.
So a mapping, again, might be interesting. Okay. Sorry. So yeah, so we have sort of this idea of creating a mapping, collecting data from the people who are here already to see what people are doing and how we can, even in this room, share which data we have available. So I think so far we need a method of communication between everyone, and we need a way of mapping what everyone is doing and what they can offer in terms of open data. Maybe even we can have some sort of list of what everyone is missing in open data, right? So where do we need the open data in their own work?
And also one thing I want to add is that the agencies responsible for releasing gender-specific data, they need to release updated information, because sometimes
So timely data is another issue, right? Okay. So, okay, we have one last, I think.
Yeah, I want to tie mine to the ranking. So how do we ensure that we get government commitment? Because that is what is lacking in getting gender issues across. Because I think for me, I would have been glad to see that the gender discussion about open data should have been part of the main whole discussion. Yeah, it was, but how widely was it participated in? How widely did people participate in that workshop? So how do we get a commitment of various government? And so we should take the ranking very seriously, because the moment there's ranking and you see that you are not doing well, every government wants to get a certificate for promoting gender equality so that the UN will praise them. So let's take the ranking very seriously. That will help us in getting our disaggregated data available. Thank you.
Okay, so just a quick item. So we actually have another 10 minutes to use, so that's great. We have a group photo in the. All right, yeah. So I think there's 3 or 4 lists circulating now, so we've got to cover. Yeah. So everyone, please don't leave without signing something. All right, so just quick. So the session ends in 10 minutes. We have a group photo in the main hall 10 minutes after that. Yes, another one. And lunch is from 2 to 3. I haven't seen them yet. And we're back to the main hall at 3. So just a quick update on our schedule. So we do have another 10 minutes to sort of work. So we have 2 action items, which is great. So communication platform and sort of a mapping based on who's here and what kind of data you have and what kind of data you'd like. Okay. So does anyone have anything else pressing that they'd really like? So we did see this statistic office coming around a lot, and this is gender disaggregated. So maybe is there something someone would like to pick up on?
I want to share an additional point which has to do with making available enough funding. Adequate funding is very key in championing gender open data, because most people would want to take up such a course, but maybe doing that whole activity is going to be expensive. But then if there's an avenue that they can source funds for to promote their work, I'm sure we'll go far with what we are doing.
So funding, that's a good. Ines, you had a point you'd like to bring up, and then Fernando, yeah. Okay, Fernando.
Just what was mentioned, I think you might want to divide the mapping of what's happening in open agenda to that specific. I think that there was a disagreement, but then an agreement that the rankings, doing empiric-based analysis of what data is really disclosed by governments is very valuable in terms of having the ranking and then having an evidence-based conversation on how to interact on that and how to make more. What are the key data sets that you need to have to see there, and then how much the governments are doing that. I think it's quite important to focus on that. So it's kind of almost like the mapping and the ranking as two different actions.
Oh, that's a good. So we're working down the list. So mapping, communication, and the list. So one thing that I think personally. Okay. Yes. Go.
Okay. My name is Shahid Sadiq. I'm with the Wikimedia Ghana user group, and I just want to add something. Every year we have a program. We have a program called Wikilabs Women, where we contribute to the content of women in Africa. And then one thing I realized is since we started this program, a lot of women doesn't want to, contribute to their own colleague women on Wikipedia platform. So as part of this program, we held a session at the Kofi Annan ICT Center for a day. That was the first day of the program, where we took people through how they can contribute to Wikipedia. And it's interesting. We also have a program right now, Wikidata, which collates information from the main Wikipedia in a data form. So all those young ladies here who are willing to actually contribute, if you are saying you are interested in women issue, this is another way you can contribute. So we are interested in getting people on board so that we will train them on how they can contribute to Wikipedia and Wikidata. So if you are interested, kindly see me and then we get you on board. Very soon we'll be running other sessions, wiki editathons, and those who are also into programming. We have the Wikimedia Africa Developers Program, which will be coming soon. So we want to see more of women taking part in these kind of projects. So if you are interested, kindly get in touch with us, Wikimedia Foundation.
So another chance to collaborate. There we go.
Yeah, I want to ask a question. My name is Vivian Soroji from Ministry of Employment. I'm in the IT unit as a head of IT. Actually, she was into getting the girls into IT. First of all, those people who are already on the field, there's a lot of challenges we are going through. When we work with the men, they don't want to open up to us. We find ourselves doing Google and other things to work in our ministry for them to know that we are also doing something. So how do you check on the ladies in IT? Those people are going through those challenges.
Involved conversation. Just getting men and more people involved in.
A man who doesn't want to open up, hiding issues from you and other things.
Okay, fair enough.
There's
one thing I think we should probably touch upon, which is the female data champions and this idea of peer-to-peer learning and mentorship as well. So does anyone have suggestions on how we sort of encourage, and I'll look again to sort of these two people here who are working already and sort of encouraging more young female techies. So what is something we as a network can do, or we as sort of different networks can help in doing this in our own situations, our contexts?
I think that even if you're not working in the gender space or in open data, we should try and collect data that is gender related. So for instance, I train people in apps development, ICT. I should be able to collect information about each person that comes to the training program and then separate those information and have gender specific information. I think that's what sometimes we forget to do. We are all doing stuff, whether you're doing capacity building, research, you are interviewing people, you should collect data and find a way of putting it there as anonymous data.
Okay, my name is Nana Ife. I'm a journalist and the National PRO for Ghana United Nations Association. I think that what I want to say is that we are saying that that we have a lot of young people who are into ICT. They use the social network and all that. But in our previous discussions, we have also realized that sometimes the data is presented in a way that the person needs to work a lot on it. It's not broken down. We should know that the youth are there, but they have their focus. So if you are putting something over there for them to use, make it friendly to what they are. If I'm on WhatsApp and, break the thing down in a way that would attract them to use or to read it. Because if the thing is not attractive, it's bulky and it's technical, they wouldn't come out to read it because already we are there for our own WhatsApp thing or Facebook thing. But if the thing is attractive, even the packaging of your information, it should be attractive for the person to be attracted to it, to read and then know the content and to be able to use it. Otherwise, we'll find the youth using all the social networks, but we'll put information there and they will not be ready to use it.
That's a good point. So maybe our data champions are not coming from those working in data or text, but people who need to be able to use data more easily, who need in their different jobs. That's a very fair point. Okay, Hadia, one last comment, and then I think we're...
I was not here from the beginning, but I also wanted to stress the point that those young girls or women who have done something in IT or data, as our data champion, we should try to make that story be heard to most women so that women can get encouraged. We know that we have a lot of projects that are successful but are not shared. So if we also put that, if we could have a platform, maybe we could be a platform that showing the story that they can do it.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. We can definitely look at, so I'm holding everyone from, well, not lunch, but a group photo and then lunch. So if we maybe take some closing comments, anything burning anyone wants to say, or something they felt that wasn't covered, that's a topic that we should really look into in our future conversations, please, now is the time to bring it up. So we did a really good job then. Oh, we have one.
Thank you. My name is Anita Jesse from Ghana Immigration Service. A lot has been said in here, but there are some observations that I would like to share. In collecting data on gender per se, we have to bring everybody on board. How do you get everybody on board? We live in an era where all institutions already have templates of collecting data. Which tools are they using? In this era, for my organization, before you collect any information, you already have the template. If you do want to change it, then it has to go to maybe Parliament. There is a policy on it. I had the opportunity for being on a platform or a project which we wanted to collect data. We realized that most of the organizations already have their template. How do we change it? Because you are saying you want information or data on gender. But this template has been there. It doesn't take one person or just a directorate to change that template. It has to go to the higher level. So my suggestion is that as we have all met here, we have to get everybody on board. If you do want to get everybody on board, then we have to look at the tools that we are using to collect the data, the technical people to even analyze the data to make it presentable. Do you also have the software in place to process the data that we have collected? If you don't have all these things together, there is no way we are going to meet our task. We all want to be seen and heard. But if the appropriate tools, appropriate people, technical people are not around, then definitely we are not going to meet our task. So from today, as we are going to break into our different countries and organizations, we should learn and we should push hard so that the right things are being done. If you do the right thing, make sure that the right people also analyze the data for it to be presentable to all users. Thank you.
Very important point, and that's maybe something our network and our group moving forward needs to look at, is standards for connecting data gender, and how do we really collect data that is gender sensitive and appropriate. I think we had one comment there, and I think then we'll end on one comment. Which are you?
Thank you very much. I wasn't here from the beginning, but the little that I've heard, we realize that it looks as if gender statistics is not working, but I believe that we need to build capacity for people to collect data. People don't really, I think the capacity is just not there in terms of not just human resources, but in terms of logistics and what have you. So in order for us to, for it to be seen to be working, there is the need to make a conscious effort that we are going to build capacity and ensure that it is done. And maybe we'll put in place some monitoring mechanism to also monitor that things are being done the way it should be done. Thank you.
No, that's the point taken. I think, again, something we can, building upon both points, work as a group towards trying to figure out more localized and more contextualized data collection and management programs. So I hope by now everyone has had a chance to write their contact information somewhere on something. And yeah. So we'll be in touch with these action items that we're taking. These action items that we're sort of taking into consideration, so communication, networking, working on data standard, but also data champions. So I think this is a very good initial step, but the conversation really should continue. So thank you everyone for being here today, and we'll be around for the rest of the day. I guess we can break up into smaller groups, and yeah, that would be great. Thank you.